To me, he could represent the value, but I would be with Jane and most of the other panel and co-back the board. Has the potential to be a superstar.
I look at this race and I think, well, which one of these could possibly run in a champion hurdle next year? And there's only one answer, really.
I think soft ground. You think he's good on good ground?
I think Andrew, they'll do well to get anywhere near him, to be honest, no matter what the ground is like.
Kind of disappointed Lossiemouth's here, to be honest. She's won it before. Are you really going to remember she... Do you know, when it's all said and done and the dust settles, nobody remembers that.
Now, once the panel just settles in their places, everyone catches their breath ahead of the thoughts and insights and hopefully analysis to come. Let's have less from me and more from this esteemed panel alongside me as we get stuck into the first race of the Cheltenham Festival. It will be the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle, for which Kopek de Board, as I alluded to there, is the 5-6 favourite. Romeo Coolio 5-1 with Salvatore Mundi at 7-1. Work ahead 11s, Ironsi 12s with William Money, and it's 16-1. Bar those. And Sam, I'm going to start with you if we can. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we got the 5-day entries, declarations come through yesterday. William Mullington's got 9 of those that are left in, but I can be fairly sure that Kopek de Board will be declared for the race on Sunday morning. He's definitely one of the Mullington that's going to line up.
Certainly stands a chance, doesn't it? Well, you very kindly painted me as the speed figure guru or the speed figure nerd, one of the two. So I've got 3 horses here, really, which are the ones to concentrate on what they've achieved so far this year. Kopek de Board is top of the list. He created, obviously, a brilliant impression at the DRF. His jumping improved immeasurably using the Race IQ data, which we have privy to at the Racing TV studios. So he went from 5.6 to 8 on the index from his first run to his second run. So I think those boxes have been ticked. The main question mark with me would be his temperament, and some of the guys will have probably been more close to the ground at Leopardstown when they saw him run and saw how he took the prelims. And obviously with 70,000 baying spectators come the first race at Cheltenham, or with a Guinness or 2 in them, you know, that long walk down the walkway at Cheltenham, that might just find him out a little bit, and that would be my main reservation with him, really. I think he's the class horse in the race, but just how he takes those prelims will really, I think, affect how he manages to run in the race. The 2 that I've got behind him would be Romeo Coolio from the Leopardstown run and William Money from Punchestown. Both of those 2 are just in behind Kopek de Board, and I'm a big fan of the latter horse, actually, William Money. I think he's learning on the job, and his data suggests that he's improving with each run.
Okay, 12-1 William Money, the last one that Sam mentioned there with Romeo Coolio behind Kopek de Board. Now, AP, obviously you won the Supreme on future champion hurdle winner All Alloir. And he was only a 4-year-old, wasn't he? How do these inexperienced younger horses take to those prelims beforehand? It's important.
Yeah, it is important. Some of them are obviously much different than others. I don't think I'd worry about the prelims. Willie Mullins, you say, has got a very strong hand. Pretty obvious that Paul Tannen's going to ride Kopek de Board. Thought he jumped really well last time in Leopardstown. I think Willie has won the Supreme with worse horses than him, and you'd be surprised if he didn't win. So, looking at some of the others, Romeo Coolio looks like a horse that would love a really strong gallop. Looks like a good stare, and it's about picking probably one of the other Willie Mullins' ones to follow him home. Maybe Capichipai might be at 33-1, might have a good each way chance. I was quite impressed with him. And Ironsi as well, who ran in a maiden hurdle behind Ballyburn and Firefox last year, and he's lightly raced at 12-1, but I think I just go straight in with Kopek de Board.
No messing about.
Don't complicate it.
Don't overcomplicate it with the favourite. Jane, we'll come to you next. Obviously, in terms of Kopek de Board, he leads not only Willie Mullins' team, but the Irish team as well. Is there anything else from the other side of the Irish Sea that you think can get close to him?
The only thing that can get next to him are horses from the other side of the Irish Sea. With the exception of the New Lion, we have all of the best novices. He is probably, for me, the only horse that I've seen this year where I thought you could be a freak. I think there's no reason why he won't improve again. And if you watch back the progression from his maiden to his grade 1, where the loose horse nearly ran him out at the home bend, I think he's potentially poles apart. For his stable companions, Salvatore Mundi's been a talking horse. He was pre-race favourite for this last year before he ever ran for Willie Mullins, so his homework was always very good. But did a little bit of research on horses who wear hoods and tongue straps. It's a bad combination for a novice. There's been 14 horses since 2015 running Grade 1s at the Cheltenham Festival with that combination of a hood and a tongue strap, and none of them have managed to win, and probably for good reason. He is obviously an immense talent, but he needs to put it all together. Against the favourite, and I'm not thinking he's a betting proposition, I think he's probably just one to watch. I like Work Ahead. Henry de Bromhead won it last year with, I think, not a fantastic horse in Slade Steel, who went to the other festivals and got beaten. I think this horse put William Money in his place well at Leopardstown, and we haven't seen him since, so maybe it's a recency bias thing that he's not really being talked about. Also, the yard has been a little bit out of form since Christmas. So I'd like him each way against the favourite. But just to contextualise how good Kopek de Board is at the moment, regardless of how good he could end up being, is that 6 of the last 12 horses who've won the Supreme were rated 153 or higher. And after just 2 hurdle runs, this horse is rated 157. We're going to talk about all of the novices. For me, he's the best we'll see.
Okay, the best we'll see. Barry, just to touch on the Henry de Bromhead point that Jane alluded to there, he hasn't had the best of seasons, but he also has been very good in previous years of getting them absolutely bang on for next week and onwards.
Absolutely. Henry's brilliant. He's a brilliant target trainer, especially at the festival. And Work Ahead, after he won his maiden at Christmas, he beat William Money. That form has been franked since William Money behind Cowabunga, and in his own listed novice hurdle he won last time. But Henry said this was going to go straight to the festival, straight for the Supreme. And he mentioned at one point he thought it was his best chance of a winner. So I thought that was a big statement from Henry. It was a good performance. To me, he could represent the value, but I would be with Jane and most of the other panel, and Kopek de Board has the potential to be a superstar. And maybe the preliminaries could be his only danger. So I'd watch him at the parade ring. I'd watch him go to post, see how he is at the start. If he gets to the start and he's relaxed or reasonably relaxed, I think he comes home alone.
Okay, and finally, Andrew, just to wrap up the Supreme, anything you want to add?
I think the hurdles at Cheltenham not being as upright as Leopardstown will help him, because jumping wise, at Leopardstown, Barry will know that they appear to be a lot more upright than you've got at Cheltenham, where you've got the padded hurdles, and to me, they're more horse friendly. They lean over a little bit more. I think that'll suit him better. You haven't got. They don't come that quickly in the last half. He travels. Obviously the preliminaries are a slight worry, but I think that's just in him. That's just in him as well. That's just the way the horse is. So can't look past him.
And we'll move on to race 2, which is the Arkle. It's going to be another short prize favourite here as well for the Arkle, of course, courtesy of Majbra. Now, AP, we'll come to you with Majbra because after, over 40 years since JP had his first winner at Cheltenham, he's arguably fielding his strongest ever team, and Majbra's leading the charge.
Yeah, very good winner of the Triumph last year. Took really well the fences. Made a few little niggly mistakes in Leopardstown last time, but I think he'll have learned from them. Probably people would think that 5-year-olds might not have had a great record in recent times, but I think he's got to just jump around. Luda Sud got beaten Betfair last year at Newbury in a county hurdle. Definitely not a bad horse. Seems to jump fences really well. Probably not as visually as impressive last time at Warwick. I kind of like Django Bay to chase him home. Thought he was a really good winner here when he beat Springwell Bay over 2.5 mile. Got beat on heavy ground at Sandown last time, but Barry will tell you Nicky's horses are not heavy ground horses. They're faster horses. I wouldn't be surprised if Django Bay was the one to chase him home. He's 1-2 in an Arkle, which is a pretty short price, but you wouldn't mind riding him. So I think it's a straightforward enough case. But I think Django Bay is definitely capable of running well at the price.
He's 7-1 at the moment. Majbra 1-2. Ballyburn still in there, quoted in the betting because he was left in the entries yesterday, but obviously he's more likely to run on Wednesday. Loda Sud 9-2, then Django Bay and 12-1 Bar. And Barry, will come to you off the back of what AP said there about Nicky's horses. Obviously, you rode the winner of the Arkle for Nicky with Sprinter Sacra, and Django Bay sort of heavy ground up that hill over 2.5 at Sandown. This would seem to be a much more suitable test.
Yeah, he'll enjoy better ground. He was beaten by handstands at Sandown on very soft ground. But he was also beaten by personal ambition in Kelso in the Grade 2 novice hurdle last season. So he was a good hurdler, but wouldn't be of the level of Malsborough winning the Triumph. So I think Malsborough, not meaning to be boring, we're on race 2 and we're another short price favourite. He is going to be really hard to beat. A couple of untidy jumps in Leopardstown, but if anything, he would have learned more from those mistakes than he would have had he just had a plain sailing round. Leopardstown is a big track, takes a lot of jumping, like Cheltenham, tricky fences. So I think he'd have learned a lot from that. It'll stand to him, but his hurdle form is far stronger, his chase form is far stronger. I would have seen more depth in the Supreme versus depth in this race. It's impossible to impose him. You can make a case for Django Bay, but it's only a case. I wouldn't have any great strength in the opposition of what I'd go for next, because I think he's a standalone this year, Malsborough.
I think if people are sort of fancying a shorty double, Andrew, to start the day, Kopek de Board gets beat, Malsborough might be able to get things back on track.
It'd be more of a price. He has that habit of going a bit left-handed, so around here, not a bother. But at Django Bay, when he was beaten up at Kelso, that's when Nicky's horses were... There wasn't many of them running too well, and he ran very well. I just think that he could be the one to... Because Nico ain't going to hang around here. You know, he was taking him back at Sandown on that sticky ground. I couldn't believe how he kept going, but he will just let him roll. And Nicky Henderson's horses, it's chalk and cheese from last year. You know, and the way Nicky is this year, you know, he's buoyant, but they're just in rude health. So I think he is one that is definitely in each way playing this. Because anything can happen. It only takes one mistake for these novices to miss one out. And you're going at 40 miles an hour, trapping on down the first few fences. The first fence will tell you plenty. But I play Django Bay each way.
OK, another vote for Django Bay is an each way shout against Malsborough. Sam?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. The impressive thing for me with Malsborough is how quickly he gets in and out of his fences, even if he does rub the odd one. The data sort of suggests that he's a very, very quick and economic and precise jumper. 1 to 2 in the Arkle, it's not a price that you're going to really go head over heels over. So I think if Django Bay is anywhere near him coming down the hill, I think he'll give him a real good race. I think 7 to 1 for him is very fair. I think he's a stronger finisher than Loda Sud. That sort of got explained away, that win at Warwick. He beat Rubo by a length. And I know Rubo's won since, but he scrambled home over 2.5 at Kempton. And I just think you've got to be better than that to win an Arkle, haven't you? And Malsborough looks as he has that touch of brilliance about him. And I think Django Bay has been underrated. OK, and Jane, final words for you?
Yeah, bar fall, he wins. Well, Chief came close to pulling off the Triumph Arkle double over 20 years ago. This fellow will be the first horse to do it. AP referenced the 5-year-old's record in the race. They're not from 16 since 2007. There hasn't been a 5-year-old like this fellow, I'd say. He is very uncomplicated. The mistakes he made at Leopardstown should stand to him in terms of experience, and I think he'll just make all. He's my first horse for what will be, I'd say, a lot of people's accumulators.
So interesting you think he'll make all, because obviously Andrew alluded to that Nico might press on Django Bay. Could that be a negative for, particularly Malsborough?
Touch Me Not is quite a quick horse, and he tried to make the running at Leopardstown, so Nico can try if he wants. And I'd say Mark Walsh would be happy to take a lead. It's not that he wouldn't want to. It's not actually his style to do what he did at Leopardstown at all, but the horse would have learned a lot doing it, so I can see why they did. He was good last year. I think he's better this year.
Thank you very much. And just to point out, everyone, as well, in a recent William Hill Inside Track special, AP did say that this would be the one that he'd probably want to ride himself. Moving on to the Mayor's Hurdle, then. This is going to be the 320, the fourth race on day one. And obviously, we spoke to Johnny from the trading room before, and this has had a bit of a shake-up in the last sort of 48 hours. We lost him out now, the favourite at 4 to 6, over Jade de Grugy at 5 to 2. Golden Ace, who also has been left in the champion hurdle, but trainer Jeremy Scott has implied strongly she's going to run here, 6 to 1. July Flower 7s, Joyeuse, who was supplemented by Nicky Henderson yesterday, at Carghazi 12s with Carla Conti, and 14 to 1 bar for the Mayor's Hurdle. And Jane, we'll come back with you. We'll start with you again, if you don't mind, on the subject of this. Obviously, for basically all season, Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie said this is going to be the 2-year plan, that we were going to win the Mares, then come back for the Champion Hurdle, and we're getting closer and closer. Obviously, things haven't gone quite as they would have hoped for this season. Earlier on in the week, Willie said, this has been the plan, it's probably where we're going to go. And then Rich Ritchie floated the Cheltenham preview last night that she may run here, and that looks as though it might be leaning more to be where we'll see her.
Yeah, we'll take it that she's running, because the market's telling us that she is. She's rated 160, and the next best is rated 151. Is it that simple? Probably. They've been training her to be a 2-miler. She won the Hatton's Grace. She got beaten, but ran very respectable. I thought at Kempton, they thought she underperformed, but she didn't get beaten that far by the best hurdler around. And then she took a heavy fall. So I don't think I'm going to be terribly insightful here. She's the best horse in the race. Looking down through her opposition, I think July Flower is a very interesting mare. She was third in the French Champion Hurdle last year. She's probably a stare, but she's quite keen. So I can see why they're not going for the stairs with her. I think she'll run a big race. She was very good at the Dublin Racing Festival in handicap company, though. And Cargazzi is one I like for the county, so I hope she's going there, because I don't think she's going to stay 2.5. She doesn't give herself a chance to stay. So, yeah, this is a good race, but kind of disappointed Lossiemouth's here, to be honest. She's won it before. Are you really going to remember she... Do you know, when it's all said and done and the dust settles, nobody remembers that.
No, I'd say to Rich Ritchie, would you rather... How good would you feel if she wins and beats Constitution
Rich doesn't
Hill?
have the riches that he had 5 years ago, so I can see from his perspective why he is. It matters nothing really to Willie, because he's got Jade de Grugy and many others. But I think from an owner's perspective, he's thinking, I don't have Gaelic Warrior now, and I don't have the ammunition that I used to fire. So it's a different perspective for him. But yeah, she's a very good mare. Is she in any power? No, but she's very good.
Okay, and Andrew, again, with Lossiemouth coming in at 4-6, it does make the race in terms of competition slightly less competitive than it would have been.
I'd like to know how many horses have come to Cheltenham Festival and fallen on their previous start. You know, you can do what you like at home, but mentally, that was a fair fall. That was a fair fall. I'm disappointed if she comes here. I think Golden Ace for me, it made hard work at Wincanton, but the ground was sticky, not her gig. Didn't like it. Did well to win, considering she went into that race and she'd had a little bit of a muscle issue as well going into that race. And Jeremy Scott's horse is now good form, decent ground. You know, obviously beat Brighter Days Ahead last year. That's no fluke. You know, she just, bearing in mind last year, she didn't see a racecourse until January last year and came to the Cheltenham Festival. And she went into this race off a mark of 124. She's now 150. So she's reached that by doing what she did last time. I think, you know, I think that you will see an even better performance on what we're going to call it good to soft by the time first day comes. Plenty of sun on her back. I'd willing to take on Lossiemouth 100%.
With Golden Ace, previous festival winner, and as you alluded to, she beat Brighter Days Ahead as well. Just touching on Golden Ace, she does seem to be peaking at the right time, doesn't she? She started off slowly and has gradually improved with every run.
Yeah, I'm not really sure she's an out-and-out stare. I think she's a good travelling 2-miler. I think she'd be better off in a fast run. I know she wasn't... All she did was stay at Wincanton, but I think that's, to me, what she looks like. I'm not sure that she'd be as good a stayer as some of these in the race. Look, Lossiemouth is by far the best mare. If she hadn't have fallen the last day, I know she did fall. If she hadn't, she'd be 4-9. So she would. I'd
say if she hadn't fallen, she'd be going Champion Hurdle, wouldn't she?
Yeah, and that's why you were saying about, that's why they're coming here, because there is that element of doubt. And as Jane said, Rich Ritchie hasn't got the riches that he had in terms of, you know, one that might definitely win at the Cheltenham Festival, and that's probably why, I know no one's going to remember, but winning the Mares Hurdle, but I can see why they're going,
and going half a gear slower.
I can see
from
why
a
they're
jumpman's
going.
perspective.
She's 4 to 6. I don't even think it's close as to which horse any jockey would want to ride in the Mares Hurdle if they were picking one. So I think she's a good 4 to 6 shot. I think Joyush is definitely one that could run well at she's 7 to 1. Won the William Hill Hurdle at Newbury last time. She's improving. She's improving because she's physically, not that everyone would know this, but she's definitely physically better than she has been. And that's why she's improving. She's much sounder than she's ever been. And I could see her running well, but Lossiemouth will win.
Lossiemouth will win. Barry?
I think as simple as that. Lossiemouth, I'd forgive her fall. It was a simple fall. She does jump really well. Now, you never know how that's going to affect the individual, whether she just settles back in or if she panics a little bit. But she has a good way going. She's rock solid. Apart from that, if you like, her form she's streets ahead of these. I'd agree with AP and Golden Ace. I'd be suspect about her at that trip. I would be with Jane on Cargies. I'm a big fan of her. She's taken a similar route to Lossiemouth last season, as in Willie producing her later, not waiting until the new year, because she's only now 5. He did it with Qvega previously. It worked for her, it worked for Lossiemouth. So there is a bit of method behind that, but she needs to settle, and stepping up on trip isn't necessarily going to help that. So she's one I do have great respect for, but it could be in the county hurdle.
Barry, were you surprised how they took each other on in Leopardstown?
Well, they're riding for 2 different owners, so they had to do what was best. I suppose the thing I was surprised to see Lossiemouth fall. I thought Stateman was a weak finisher, and Paul Townend even mentioned how the last hurdle was big, which to me that would have taken from that Stateman was going with the choke out. I'd say Lossiemouth would have looked after him, and she would have been in the champion hurdle. And the fact that she was considered for a champion hurdle, she's streets ahead of these.
And Sam, both Jane and Barry mentioned Cargasi. The fact that Lossiemouth runs here pushes her down the Mullins pecking order means she's possibly more likely to now run on the Friday rather than Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, you just hope if you back Lossiemouth there's no seagulls about, don't you? That could be a bit of an issue. Knowing Willie will probably have that sorted. I mean, she is sort of head and shoulders above these. I'd go the other way with Golden Ace. I think she's had 3 runs at Cheltenham. She's won twice, been 3rd to Lucky Place. The handicappers felt that was a career best from her. They felt that the Wincanton run was on a par as well. They went a ridiculous gallop for the first circuit in that race, and it was all about stamina. I thought she did really well to win that day. So she'd be my each-way call in this race. And I could see Queen's Gamble sneaking into the frame, 25 to 1. I think she's crying out for a step up in trip. She's not the soundest mare, but stable's going particularly well at the moment and might run well at a big price.
And the ground will suit her as well, drying as well.
Drying ground, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much indeed, Sam. Now, throughout the course of the week, everyone, William Hill have a top price guarantee on the first race and the feature race each day. So obviously day 1, that will be the Supreme Novices Hurdle and the Champion Hurdle, of course, which is the big race and now the big matchup that we're all going to be looking forward to. Barry, we'll come to you first. Obviously, you won the Champion Hurdle many times, Punjabi, Jeski, Bouvedere, etc. And obviously, you know a lot about Constitution Hill as well. And this season so far, I thought he was really, really good here on Trials Day. And Nicky's been very happy, seemingly. We had a gallop yesterday and everyone seems positive.
Yeah, so he was good on Trials Day. He was untidy at the last. He made it, I suppose, the first mistake he's made on a racecourse. But he was out all alone for a good bit. He still won Cosley. So you can pigeonhole that if you want, and some people found negatives in that if you like. But he put in a good performance in Kempton at Christmas on his first run back for 12 months, beating Lossiemouth back in 3rd on Burdett Road, who had the benefit of runs under their belt. So that was a solid performance as well. He worked in Kempton. I wouldn't think that was the most testing piece of work. He did a strong piece of work on the Friday before that at home. So I think it was just important to get him away for a day. But I saw a video of him earlier today, a video of him yesterday schooling, and he looked dynamite. You saw him fly the last there in the Champion Hurdle 2 years ago. He was at the same crack in 7 Barrows yesterday morning. So he seems to be in really good shape, really good form. Obviously, there's stronger opposition against him this time around and brighter days ahead coming here after that big performance in Leopardstown. But she was beaten at last year's festival by Golden Ace. And good horses have a tendency of winning, not losing. And to pin it all on one performance in Leopardstown, which was really visually impressive. Stateman would have disappointed on the day. She beat Winterfog, beat him well, but you need a higher level of form for me to have her challenge in Constitution Hill. I would respect her, but I think he's going to take an awful lot of beating. Stateman, it's hard to make a case for him on those runs, and even his placed effort behind Constitution Hill previously. So on what we're seeing at the minute, it's hard to oppose him. He's been really impressive in everything he's done. He's unbeaten on the racecourse still, so to me, he's got all the stars in the right places.
And he's 4-7 at the moment over Brighter Days Ahead, as you can see, 2-1. Lossiemouth still in there because she was left in the race, 11-2. Stateman 8 and 33-1, and that includes Burdett Road. Sam, obviously, great that Brighter Days Ahead is running because it makes it far more interesting than it possibly would have been. We saw the footage of Constitution Hill rolling down the hill and bounding onto 2 outs. It's unlikely that might be the case on Tuesday. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think King of Kinsfield in the race, going to set a good gallop, you would imagine, like he did at Leopardstown, Burdett Road as well. I think James Owen's keen to come here instead of the county hurdle now. They've done a bit of a U-turn, so it looks as though there's going to be plenty of pace on. For me, that just suits Constitution Hill even more. With Bright Days Ahead, I'm just a little bit concerned that she beat Stateman 3/4 of a length in the Morgiana, and then has been, beating it 30 lengths at Leopardstown with Winterfog second. I just can't believe that form particularly. And like Barry said, she was beaten by Golden Ace as well. Just question marks for me. She was pretty keen that day, and maybe they'll take account of that by running the pacemaker, and that'll help her settle more. But he's pretty bomb-proof, isn't he? And it's not Nicky Henderson's MO as well to go to something like Trials Day when he doesn't have to, and yet he was fully happy to do that. I know he's had a canter around a half speed, but it was still great to see him, and it just shows that the horse is in quite robust fashion this year, and the way he is and his constitution.
Yeah, because obviously he had been, Andrew, been off for 12 months before the Christmas hurdle, but it would seem that he's come back all guns blazing. Do you think the mare has this chance of turning him over?
No.
Fair enough. AP.
Look, I think he's... What I saw with Constitution Hill, I think he came out of Nico's hands at about the 4th hurdle. That's what I liked, which tells you inside he's not hurting. Whether he had colic, you always worry a bit whether they can stretch away. What you saw at Cheltenham in putting down, you've rarely seen Nico have a look round. He had a look round when he turned in, which he doesn't do, and he just eased off the gas. And it was last minute go on. The horse has gone, oh, you want me to come then? Because usually it's roll forward, keep rolling, and he'll come up and wing it. If he hadn't looked round, I don't think he'd have put down. End of story. But I was impressed how he made that mistake. It almost gave him a fright, because when he landed, he was shot straight back into the bridle. I think he'll win, bolt up. I'd have Stateman to be second. I don't think Stateman, that was, to me, his only poor run when he got absolutely beaten out of sight by Brighter Days Ahead. And the fact that coming into last year, Gordon could not see Brighter Days Ahead getting beat. It was he just could not see it getting beat. And she did. And so I just have a little question in the back of my head. Can you replicate that performance of the DRF? To go and do that again, it was blow me away. But Winterfog was the one who was, and Winterfog's going to finish where?
A long way behind, we assume. So, Jane, turning to you, pretty unanimous so far. That's a wry smile.
He's not, after establishing himself as one of the greats, and this is his opportunity to do that. I actually, watching that replay, forgot how good he was, because we kind of haven't seen brilliance since then. We've seen winning. He's won 10 of his 10 starts, but he hasn't raced with enough regularity against a diverse range of opposition for him to be considered what we will talk about with Gallup and Deschamps. But he is probably the best we've seen since Listerbrack. And I think Brighter Days Ahead in the race will give, I suppose, us the opportunity to finally hail him one of the greats, because she is very good. I think Barry was with me when we were watching that performance at Christmas at Leopardstown, and we were looking up at the clock thinking, 35, are they really going to sustain 35? And then King of Kingsfield capitulates at the second last, which he will probably do here at the top of the hill. And she went on and maintained it, probably because she's a 2.5 miler, if I'm being honest. Her pedigree tells you she's probably going to be a stayer. So what happened last year happened because it turned into a sprint. And they didn't make that mistake this year, and they've been clever enough to put in a pacemaker. Somebody's looking at Aidan O'Brien and learning a thing or two. But this guy has the opportunity to quicken off a slow pace or grind off a high tempo. I think Constitution Hill is a fabulous horse, and I think now, what looks like a match race. I like State Man. I admire him. I'd love to own a horse like him. But if they turn in and pull 10 lengths clear of State Man, then we can finally say he's that good. And she's very good, and she's going to get the allowance, but he's that good.
Final word to AP on this. I suppose because he's always beaten State Man and the same horse over and over again, this is the first time that he's come up against a very, very, very good horse for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, look, he, as everyone says, he is a brilliant horse, and you know he's unbeaten on the race course. What is there? You know, but I just don't think he was off for a long time, and I remember looking at him at Nicky's open day and thought, I mean, he looks fatter than me, so he does, and he looks like he's retired. So to get him back, I do think that he'd definitely be better for his 2 runs. I don't think he was as visually impressive at Kempton. I wasn't blown away by him. I wasn't blown away by him here in Trials Day. I actually think her performance in Leopardstown was better than either of his. I actually think she's the best horse that he's ran against. I think she got beat here last year. Yeah, Gordon. She got beat here last year because she was keen. They went too slow. And she's been better since. I know that State Man, she beat State Man first time out in Punchestown, but she jumped left all the way. I think there was a lot in the performance. I know Andrew said she only beat Winter Fog, but she beat him out of sight. And if she beats him, then fair enough. But she is the best horse that he's ran against. And I know that State Man has won multiple Grade 1s. I know he won a champion hurdle last year, but I think he's been better in other places in Ireland than he has been in Cheltenham. I'll have to see it. I think she's going to give him plenty of it.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully it sets us up for a fantastic race for the feature race on Tuesday. The other 3 races on Tuesday are the Ultima Handicap Chase, the Fred Winter 4-year-old Handicap Hurdle, and the National Hunt Chase, which is now a handicap for novices. The best of the rest, we'll just sort of put it open to the panel of those 3 races. Maybe Sam, start with you. Anything that you fancy particularly?
Yeah, I'm quite keen on Broadway Boy and the Ultima. I think if he hadn't run last time, he'd be quite a sure price favourite for this. He's jumped around Cheltenham plenty. His race IQ jump index is very good as well, so I like him. Fred Winter, I think Stencil's the strongest piece of form in the race. He's the quality horse. I think he'd be very difficult to beat. I put up Total Look on a little column I do. He's shortened quite dramatically in price. I can't understand why, really, because he doesn't jump brilliantly. I thought he was one to have a poke at sort of 16, 20 to 1, but not sort of 6 or 7 to 1. And just one at a big price would be Liam Swagger, given the way that James Owen's juveniles run. He's 25 to 1. Won at Southall on the flat recently. He's got loads of sort of flat form. He's quite a hard knocking, durable flat type. I think the rigours of this race will suit him, and I think he's sort of 25 to 1. I think that's a fair price.
Yeah, won 2 of his 3 hurdle starts, and as you say, one on the flat at Southall. Anybody else want to chip in with those races?
I'll put up Famous Bridge in the Ultima. He finished 4th in it last year, and Shawnee Quinlan rode him last year, and he said he felt flat last year, but still ran well. He ran at Haydock the other day on good to soft stroke, good ground, beat Apple Away of Lucinda's, and he absolutely hacked up, and he pulled up fresh horse. He's a better horse this year. He's only £3 higher. He's 20 to 1, and the way he ran last year in it, he's certainly in as good a form, if not better, and the drier ground will definitely suit him. Perfect. Jane?
Yeah, I'd be with Sam on Broadway Boy in the Ultima. The Irish have an atrocious record in this race. We're not from 46 since in the last 18 years, Barry. I did fact check that. We had an argument on the way since the airport. But yeah, not from 46 in 18 years. The Irish horses are not well handicapped. Broadway Boy, I think he could potentially do Cork Rambler on it. Cork Rambler beat the multiple Grade 1 winner, fast or slow on this a couple of years ago before winning the Entry National, and wouldn't surprise me if Nigel Twiston-Davis was trying to do the same double. Like Aughty Calore for Rebecca Curtis in the National Hunt Chase. I think she's been working back from this race for quite a long time. And in the Fred Winter, Joseph O'Brien has a fabulous record in this race. We all know he doesn't have too many jumpers anymore, but the few that he has are running remarkably well. I think Beyond Your Dreams, if you look back at that run when he was second to Total Look, Beyond Your Dreams will turn that form around, and he's double the price, I'd say.
Okay, thank you very much, Jane. Barry and AP, happy to move on?
Yeah, I actually like Neil Mulholland's horse Transmission, who got beat by Hata Colours of Rebecca Curtis here. He ran the Cleve last time. He was last, a long way last, but Neil Mulholland did the same with the Druid's Nephew. You won, Barry, didn't you? He ran the same. He's gone the same route with him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Transmission. I like with Jane. I like Beyond Your Dreams. I like Sam Thomas's horse, Katati Dory, that won in Kempton. I think he's definitely an improver. Sam Thomas has done really well in handicap chases. He's only a 7-year-old. I think he's open to improvement again.
Katsat Dory and Barry?
Yeah, I thought Lady Vega Allen, good form behind Hello Neighbour. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I thought she could be won with a squeak in the Fred Winter.
Okay, Lady Vega Allen, thank you very much indeed, Barry. So we're going to move on to day number 2. We'll start off with the Turners, which is mentioned there as well, to look at the races as well. Before we do, just to remind you, we've got a best odds guaranteed on all UK and Irish racing, and that's from 8 a.m. every day. This is not just Cheltenham, this is every single day. Best odds guaranteed on all UK and Irish racing from 8 a.m. every single day. And that, of course, will start from 8 a.m. for the action tomorrow if you want to have a bet at Leicester, for example. Right, the Turners Novices Hurdle. The New Lion 13-8, Final Demand 2-1, the Yellow Clay 5-1, James's Gate 10s, Potter's Charm 12-1 with the Big Westerner and 14-1 bar those. Jane, if we can start with you here. This has got a bit of an old style cracking UK novice, cracking Irish novice match-up between them, but you did say earlier on we've got the best of the novices, so...
Bar the New Lion. Yeah, I like him. I know everybody spout the Challow Hurdle, 0 from 21 record, but I think this year has been a little bit different because the ground this year for the Challow Hurdle wasn't terribly heavy and he didn't get dipped. He's got an official rating of 147. I don't know how you quantify his ability when he really hasn't come off the bridle. And I know the same can be said for Final Demand, and he was brilliant at Leopardstown. And I like about him is immediately after the race, Willie Mullins completely dismissed the Albert Bartlett. He was like, he's not slow. Just because he won over 2-6 today, he's not slow. But that 2-6 race at Leopardstown does have a poor conversion rate at the Cheltenham Festival. I'd actually like the Yellow Clay against him. But if I'm looking at bigger odds, Potter's Charm at 12-1, he's better than we saw when he got beaten here last time. Probably shouldn't have ran him. He made Valgrand look very ordinary at the November meeting. And I just like the horse each way at 12-1. But I think New Lion is the best novice in the UK by a mile, and he's the right favourite. He's the one for me.
Okay, he's top in the betting. And AP will ask you about the New Lion, obviously, because when he appears on Wednesday, he'll be in JP Silks for the first time.
Yeah, I agree with Jane. Actually, I thought he was really impressive in the Challow. Harry rode him very confidently, good traveller. I still think that, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, Final Demand or the Yellow Clay. I know a lot of people are worried about running horses in the Albert Bartlett, and for their long term, they might be better off running this race. But I like the Yellow Clay. I thought he was quite impressive in this. Thought he's a really solid horse. I'd have him over Final Demand. And I agree about Potter's Charm. He looked really good at Aintree. I think there was question marks whether they thought they should have ran him or not last time. Obviously got beat, so they shouldn't have done so. A 12-1 Potter's Charm is definitely a good price, but I like the New Lion. I think the way the race will be run, it'll really suit him. Looks like he's got plenty of pace. He'll be able to travel. He looks a good jumper. I like the New Lion.
Okay, 2 votes for the New Lion. Sam, how's the form matching up for the two for you?
It's just a great matchup, isn't it? It's probably a narrative we're going to see for the next few years. Skelton versus Mullins. Obviously, Skelton's the emerging force, and I look at this race and I think, well, which one of these could possibly run in a champion hurdle next year? And there's only one answer, really. That's a New Lion. He's a bit of a cat, isn't he? He gets in and out of his hurdles quickly, very precise, very economic. Watching Final Demand win at the DRF, I just thought he reminded me of Galopin de Champs. I just thought he's going to be a metronomic 3-mile chaser in a couple of years' time. So I think he'll probably, with the drying ground, the new line might just have a bit too much toe for him. I think like AP, I thought Final Demand and the Yellow Clay would definitely be Albert Bartlett type horses rather than this race. So I've got to go with the new lion.
New line again. So unless Barry and AT want to descend, we'll move straight on to the Brown Advisory, because I want to hear from Andrew about his nap of the meeting, because he's so keen on that. So the Brown Advisory, obviously the 3-mile novice chase, it's going to be race number 2 on Wednesday. Ballyburn, even money. Dancing City, 7-2. Better Days Ahead, 6-1, which Johnny from the trading room mentioned has been quite strong. 10-1, Gorgeous Tom, and 12's Lecky Watson. Andrew, obviously, Ballyburn ran at Kempton over 2 miles, but after that, which was a good run, really, in hindsight, wasn't it? And Willie said this is probably where he's going to end up, and he's even money favourite.
Well, I think I'm going to Kempton when he definitely prefers, to me, going left. He's proved it, obviously with Cheltenham last year. He won the Turners last year, and he just galloped him into submission, really.
You confident he'll stay?
I think I'm certain he'll stay. I think he'll just, the way he jumps lends itself. If you think what price is he in the Arkle, and he's not going for the Arkle, I think in what he can do over 2 miles, I don't mind how he's ridden. I think he's tough, he's hard. It's 3 furlongs further than the Turners. The jumping as well, he jumps what I'd say properly, makes a decent shit. I just think he loves Cheltenham. He's as hard as nails. I think he'll just win.
Okay, nap of the meeting.
Nap of the meeting, yeah.
Just very simple, thank you. Make it sound simple anyway, Andrew. So, AP, you obviously won the race on Alberta's run back in 2007, I think?
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
1 year out, as Kemper would say.
I only know because I broke my back about 6 weeks or 8 weeks earlier. Anyway, I'm with Andrew. Ballyburn, I think you can count in your one hand the amount of horse that Willie has between Cheltenham and the beginning of the year in the UK. I couldn't even count 5 in the last 5 years that Willie had won before Cheltenham. It was obviously disappointing they got beat by Sergino. I thought Paul gave him a good confident ride around Leopardstown. I actually like horses that carry their head down, because I often think that they're less likely to fall. I know he made a mistake in Kempton, but if they can see it, they're less likely to hit it with their head. So I like that about Ballyburn. I think he's the best horse. Pretty simple.
I like the way AP just casually threw in, broke my back a few weeks later. Like it was something that I stubbed me toe last night.
That's the only reason why I know it was 2008.
So that was my fault as well, because I got suspended and he rode the horse I was supposed to ride. So it made me feel better anyway.
I knew I didn't like you.
It could have been worse.
It was that. That's a good enough reason for me not to like you anymore.
It could have been worse. It could have been me.
Look after number 1, AT. Don't worry about that.
Well, nobody else will.
You, James.
You. Yeah.
Completely lost my chain of thought.
Do you know what I have? I actually have a question, because we're on a stage with 3 Cheltenham Festival winning jockeys, right? And you're looking at the Brown Advisory, and you're kind of, like what Sam said about the new line, is the Turners going to throw up a champion hurdle contender for next year? You're looking at the Brown Advisory thinking, is there a factophile who could go into the Gold Cup the following year? So, to the 3 Gold Cup winning jockeys, those 3-mile chasers that were elite at that level, at 2 miles, would they have got as destroyed by Sergino as Ballyburn did? Because I was always led to believe that the top class 3-mile chasers, like Cato, Star and a Tingle Creek, could manage to cope at a very high level at that trip.
I'll give you a yes/no answer.
Did you ride Kicking King in the Arkle?
I was second to Well Chief on Kicking King in the Arkle, so he was very competitive over 2 mile. Bob's wouldn't be found over 2 mile on Kempton. So yes and no. But for me, that still doesn't improve Ballyburn's chances. Ballyburn was a good winner of the Turners last season. To me, Dancing City had Better Days Ahead 5 lengths behind him when he won the 3-mile novice hurdle at the Punchestown Festival on good to yielding ground. So he won't have an issue with ground. He jumps better than Ballyburn. I think he's a horse who's on the up. I think he's a better chaser than he was a hurdler. To me, he's the potential Gold Cup horse going forward. He doesn't need to worry about 2 mile today. He would be lost over 2 mile as well, but I think he'll win over 3.
Yeah, I concur with Barry on Dancing City. I just like the consistency of the horse. I think he thrives on racing, which we saw when he went to all of the festivals last year. And he's the kind of the dour horse. So again, question to AP and Andrew: were you kind of disappointed that he got absolutely at Kempton?
I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm not surprised to say to you, could you name 5 horses in 5 years that Willie's had that's won, other than the Oaks that Patrick's brought to Catterick and places like that? In a proper race before Cheltenham, could you name 5 horses in 5 years? Lossiemouth won here, I think, at Arkle last year, to be fair. But
I think it was an ends to a means for Ballyburn. It was a case of, well, you're not going to bottom him by running him 2 mile around Kempton, and we'll send him across. And
I don't know whether that's right. It'd be interesting to think, is Paul Townend would even think or consider him. No, jockeys are often wrong. Barry was very lucky. I got it wrong a lot of times here, but I wonder with Paul Townend, is he thinking about riding Dancing City?
JP was lucky.
Yeah, I wonder.
Apparently, they're not even
like,
considering it now. That's just listening to David Casey and Patrick and Ruby, and they're all very smitten with Ballyburn. And the handicapper has £10 between them, so maybe we're making a ridiculous argument. But I just don't think he's the next coming, and he's kind of being spoken about as if he is.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make, Sam. Do you think he's the next coming?
He's a bloody good horse, but over 3 miles, if it was proper soft, I think Dancing City would really give him a right good race, and I think Better Days Ahead would as well. And I wouldn't rule out Gorgeous Tom. I mean, he ran in the Drimmore when the horses from the yard were totally bang out of nick. I mean, there were dreadful percentages through January, but they are coming back a bit now. So I think if you want to lay Ballyburn at even money, I think you've got a few running for you. I wish Croke Park was in it as well, by the way. I think he would have gone well over 3 mile here. And just slightly taking a little bit of issue with Andrew's thoughts about Ballyburn's jumping. His race IQ jump index isn't astonishing. It's possibly one of the worst in the race. So I think he has got a little bit to do on that facet of his performances. And he can be a little bit keen, a little bit lit up as well. So I think you've got enough in the price to think, yeah, I'm going to take him on at evens. And my choice would probably be Dancing City, because I think he's just a tough, durable, hard-knocking 3 miler, and they often win these rather than the flashy types.
Right, okay, so a nice bit of difference of opinion from the panel there for the Brown advisory. We'll move on to the Coral Cup, which is obviously one of the most competitive handicap hurdles of the week, although Be Aware, 5-1, he's quite a big loser in the William Hill book, apparently. Wadu, who was touted for the Martin Pipe, and Gordon suggested that's where she might run, 8-1, but he's been left in again today. Super Sunday 10s, Impost Trois 10s, Comfort Zone 12s, Balladin 14s with Bo Zenith, and 16-1 bar those. And Sam, we'll open the floor to you if we can first with the Coral Cup. We've got fond memories of this, haven't we?
We have, haven't we? Yeah. I think the last time I nearly backed the winner, I think Barry rode it.
Yeah.
Got beat on it as well. You were only 12 clear at the last and got beat.
Oh, Native Dara.
Native Dara.
Jeez, that's 25 years.
Yeah.
Good to know he's not holding the grudge in here.
I'll give you the fiver there later on.
64-1 on the tote. Not that I need counselling. Couple of quick stats. 18 of the last 24 winners have had 9 runs or less in this, so you want not inexperienced, but unexposed hurdler. And 12 of the last 15 had run at Cheltenham previously, of which 10 had finished in the top 4. So Be Aware qualifies there. And a couple of the others I quite like. Bo Zenith, who I think's had this as the plan for much of the year. I think James Bowen will be a bit of a miss, so it'll be interesting to see Nicky Books instead. And one under the radar a little bit, Jimmy DeSoy, who was chasing home Ballyburn in the Gallaghers last year. He's got 2 entries for Ed Ware, the owner, County Hurdle and this. Just be interesting to see whether he just drops into a handicap and a certain P. Townend appears at the end of the form card with him riding, because he doesn't take many rides in these handicaps. So he's obviously got a bit of class.
Jimmy DeSoy is 16-1. Anybody else want to mention anything in the Coral Cup?
Wood Who, I know there's good word from Gordon Elliott's on Wood Who. She won her last 5, I think. Good performance last time, but she's be stepping into handicap as well for the first time. But she's there's a good word for her.
Did you go for the Martin Pipe?
She has that as the option.
Only one of the last 21 favourites have won, so just go for a bit of value, I'd say.
Yeah, go for a bit of value. If you can get 64-1 on the tote about something, then a second will do.
You still don't collect, do you?
Well, true. AP, anything to add?
I think it's just the fact that the skeletons in handicaps in the last few seasons, you have to be so
wary.
That's one way. I mean, what we now 8-1. This was 4 days ago. Now it's getting squeezed a bit more. San Anapolino doesn't go, so that takes another one out. Bo Zenith looked flashy round here when it was first time out, dropped in. I'd just be wary of the Skeletons horses. The handicaps. The fact that it's only had 2 stars this year, I'd be very keen on.
Yeah, and I think the odds compilers are doing the same, being wary at 5-1 when there's going to be 26 runners in that Coral Cup on Wednesday. Just a reminder that we have got the top price guarantee, everyone, of course, on the first and feature races every day. So on Wednesday, that will be the Turners, race 1, and, of course, the Champion Chase, which is the big race on day 2. AP, we mentioned, obviously, that you're a big fan of John Bond, but you mentioned that he has been beaten 3 times in his career. They've all been at Cheltenham, and 2 of them were at the festival.
Yeah, I think in the Supreme, he obviously got beaten by Constitution Hill, who's a very good horse. He is a much better chaser. Barry, I'll tell you, having ridden a lot of good 2-milers. He's very... I know he made a mistake here when he got beat by Alexa the Nuts at the top of the hill when James Bowen rode him. That was probably at the start of... It was the end of January last year when Nicky's horses weren't flying. Not making an excuse for him. But... and in the Arkle, I just think Nico gets on really well with him. I think it's such an advantage if you've got a horse that stays like he does, that is able to jump as quick as he does through the air, and that's why he's a better chaser than he is a hurdler. He wasn't that impressive winning that Schlur Chase because he probably didn't go fast enough. It was his first run of the year. I think the faster they go, I think that the easier he'll win. Solness has definitely improved on his run behind him in the Tingle Creek earlier in the year, and Ergamine obviously ran behind him in Ascot last time. I just think that, I just think he's the best horse, and I think the faster they go, the more competition he has, the better he'll be. I saw him school the other morning. He jumped brilliant. He has got beaten 3 times at Cheltenham, and those are the reasons. Like, as I said, in the Supreme Novices, he just got beat by a brilliant horse in Constitution Hill, and the other twice, I am making excuses for him. I think just ridden the way he's been ridden, the way Nico will ride him, and as I said, to me as well, he's a little bit like you're into boxing, like Floyd Mayweather boxing. It's a hard thing to say about a horse that's won 16 out of 19 races, but he's a bit leery. He minds himself, and I do think that the more competition he gets, the better he'll be, and the easier he'll win.
I was going to compare him to Liverpool. I know you wouldn't enjoy that comparison, but sometimes this season they're just winning ugly, aren't they? And he does that a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just does enough. Like he's well able to mind himself, and that's why he's got such a good record. And as I said, the last day in Ascot when Geraghty and him went at it a little bit, it was probably the best he'd been. And I just think if that happens again, I think it'd be very hard to beat. It's hard to fancy him to beat him, really. With
Gaelic Warrior coming out as well, LA Francais probably not going to run either. Jane, it simplifies his task a little.
Definitely, yeah. I am not going to add anything about John Bond that AP hasn't said already. He's the best horse in the race. The only thing I do have to highlight is that 6 of the last 9 odds-on favourites have been beaten, and some very good horses amongst them, like Sprinter Sacra and Duvan and El Fabiolo last year, Defi de Soy, like proper horses for some whatever reason. This race has fallen apart, and I would argue the 2 races that Energumen has won were bicycle races. Last year's Captain Guinness, sure, we didn't even mention him. It has a record of falling apart, but this fella is just so consistent. So I wouldn't even look at the market unless you're betting without. And if you're betting without, I think Marine National is just improving. I think it's going to be his 8th run over fences, or his 6th run over fences. He's not very experienced, and he just keeps getting that little bit better, that little bit more furnished. The likelihood with the ground being on the good side is definitely going to enhance his chances. So I would admire John Bond. I wouldn't be taking him on. He's a very good horse. He's not like wow special Sprinter Sacra pomp, but there's a lot to be said for consistency, and he has that.
He does. He's very hard to knock in some ways. Barry, when Jane was reading off those odds on horses who got turned over there, you raised your eyebrows, despite the fact you've got a fantastic record as a jockey in the race.
Yeah, I remember going out here in 2020 on Deafy the Side. It was 2-5, and I'm thinking this is an absolute steering job. Keep him out of trouble. I could have pulled up after 4 fences. He was going nowhere. So it does happen. But as the panel have mentioned, John Bond is ultra consistent. I think with Solness making a good, strong gallop, it's going to play to John Bond's strengths. But being honest, I think John Bond might be the only horse to pass Solness, maybe. I like Solness. I put him up the last day in Leopardstown because he beat Everton the previous day. Take a chance. I think he's going to beat them again. I think he has upped his game through this season. The ground should be ideal for him. I'm not sure Marine National, albeit that he won the Supreme, I'm not sure going around here over fences is just what he dreams about at night, where Solness does. I think John Bond will pass Solness and he'll be the only one to pass him.
Okay, so you could have a forecast, Sam, if you want to.
It's not what I dream about either, going over fences at Cheltenham, to be honest. I thought Marine National was probably the each-way play. If you were going to look for an each-way double type of horse on that day, he would probably be my candidate. The case for the prosecution of John Bond is that his top 6 career performances have all come away from Cheltenham. And as AP has alluded to, he has been beaten 3 times around there. But I think the race it's not falling apart, but it's becoming eminently very winnable for him. And he just wins. And the guy on top as well, I mean, we're sitting there with some brilliant jockeys here, but he doesn't make many mistakes in these Grade 1 races. He's very, very safe pair of hands. I know aesthetically people might look at other jockeys and say they're prettier, but he just gets the job done. He very rarely makes a tactical error, and I think that's good to have on your side if you're punting a short one.
You like speed figures, Sam. Could Marsbury get near John Bond this year?
Not yet, but wouldn't be far away. Even when John Bond scrambles in, he still does good figures. He's just a relentless 2-miler, isn't he? But be an interesting one next year.
I'm going to say that will be interesting next year. I mean, hopefully Sydney in 12 months' time, forcing AP into a decision about which one he rides.
And in fairness to Marsbury, he hasn't had the opportunity to do a big number yet. He's just been dawdling around in his own time, really, hasn't he? Whereas John Bond's had to pull it out.
Quick word, Andrew, from you before we move on to best of the
I'd
rest.
say John Bond's one that AP would like to come back for and help him to be champion jockey again.
I think anyone would, really. And I know, as Martin Pipe would say, you know, I said to him one day when I was at the races I rode this little horse and it was odds on favourite, and I said, "Is it will it win?" He said, "Yeah, it's a certainty." He said, "It doesn't look like much." He said, "Have you got any mirrors in your house?" He said, I wouldn't buy you or back you either. But Marsbury and John Bond are 2 absolute models of horses, like, to look at. They'll stand out walking around the parade ring. You look at them, you think what specimens they are. Like, if you were to build a racehorse, they'd be the perfect models of the wood. So, you know, to be very pleased if they both win this year.
One thing about the 2-milers, that, you know, Barry Road, Moscow Flyer, and I think the older they get, the more they look after themselves, and that's why they have longevity. But in a race like this, the fine margins, you know very early on, if they're not quite at 100%, it's the jumping that goes straight away. We saw it last year. You mentioned with Deafy, if they balloon the first or reach at little things like that, that you will be found out. Yeah. You have to be absolutely you have to be on song. And John Bond coming into this year is probably better than he's ever been.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think he is better than he's ever been.
Just mentioned Captain Guinness.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been out the first 3 when he's been to Cheltenham over fences.
Last year's winner, of course, as well, and he's a very, very big
That's
prize.
because he's contested terrible championships.
I suppose if you take out John Bond, you could argue this is the same. Best of the rest on Wednesday, cross country, the Grand Annual and the Champion Bumper. So anyone want to take a stab at one of those for us?
I'll put up Clipso Chance in the Champion Bumper. It was interesting at Christmas, Leopardstown, Willie Mullins had no horse for the bumper at Cheltenham. A couple of weeks later, he has 5. Now, I think Bambino Fever is a very good mare, and she's a graded winner, which 7 of the last 9 winners of the Cheltenham Bumper have won at listed or graded levels. So that tells me that the likes of Game of Finches and Copacabana, they lack that bit of experience that I'd like them to have. Whereas Clipso's Chance, he won a point-to-point in the UK, hammered his opposition on his first bumper by 15 lengths, didn't come off the bridle, And then he won that graded bumper at Navan, where he was apparently second string, but they say he doesn't work terribly well at home. And since then, we haven't seen him. And I think it's a recency bias thing where he's kind of been forgotten about. Gordon's very good at producing these bumper winners. We saw that with Envoy Allen and Fiona, and he's had multiple placed horses since. Jalan Dadaris has not been confirmed for the race today. So Calypso's chance for me to take Willie's mantle away.
Well, Willie's got 4 of the first 5 in the betting, and Calypso chances the other one at 13-2 at the moment. Anyone else cross-country Grand Annual bumper?
The value could be gone in Bustleton, but looks like one has been really trained for this. A lot of old-timers in the race. Obviously, we saw Stumptown, but Stumptown has an £8 penalty, which he picked up for entry, which doesn't help his case. But I thought Bustleton was a horse who's been prepped for this, would have form on better ground as well, so drying ground will be in his favour.
Yeah, Bustleton will receive £19 from Stumptown in that cross-country. He's 7-1.
Big fan of Bambino Fever.
Yep.
I'd like to know who rides her. Do we know anything about the jockey bookings?
Almost certain that Patrick has gone on the record saying that he'll either ride Coco Cabana or Game of Finches, which means Paul Townend will ride the other one that he doesn't ride, and that Jodie would likely ride Bambino Fever, which means she'll probably be a bigger price on the day. But Jodie doesn't do too many things wrong.
And I think that'll tell you about the Cheltenham bumper. Absolute try and and the Coral Cup was an impossible race to try and break the winner of. A lot of races are at Cheltenham. The Cheltenham bumper, you never know. Got beaten a favourite at the Cheltenham bumper. Thought it was a certain day. Got beat by a 50-1 shot, and it was Monsignor who just left Cheltenham for about 6 months. I couldn't believe how it got beaten in the Cheltenham bumper. How bad a ride he give it, and a 50-1 shot beaten. It was just a champion. So just never know what you're coming up against. Hard race. Those 2 races, of all the races at Cheltenham Festival, the Coral Cup and the Cheltenham bumper. Yeah. Sometimes you get the odd, exceptional, brilliant bumper horse, but you just never know what's in it.
Q-Card, was he not 40-1 when he won?
Yeah, he was 40s, yeah.
Yeah, Q-Card. Yeah, he was 40-1 when he won.
Yeah.
Okay, right. That's day 2. And just to say, William Hill offered more top prices in 2024 than any other major bookmaker, and that has been verified by Odds Checker. We've heard the thoughts of the panels on day 1 and day 2 thus far. St Patrick's Thursday is the third day that we're going to start off with now. So we're going to start with the Mayor's Novices hurdle and have a look at the betting for this one, because it is a very, very interesting race. 6.5, 5-2, and it's been very popular. Maureen, William Hill out to get her at 4-1. Coraline Bonbou, 7-1 with Galileo Dame and Aurora Vega. Jubilee Alpha, a single figure priced UK-based runner, would you believe? And it's 10-1 Just a Rose and 12-1 bar those. Jane, we'll start with you if we can here. Got 2 mares at the top there. They've both only had 1 run over hurdles. Although, to be fair, 6.5's got a lot of flat experience behind her.
She does, and she started in bumpers, and she's very good, but I think she's very short. Barry, we saw you in a bit of footage there a while ago riding her, so I'll let you elaborate on her a bit more, but I'm going to take her on. Maureen isn't for me. I think she's kind of been hyped because of her name. Obviously it's a poignant name and a Willie Mullins trained mare, and she's got a pedigree, but she's very inexperienced, and I don't think she's done enough to merit 4-1. I like Caroline Bambou. She was second in a Grade 1 bumper in France last year. They couldn't see her beat on her debut at Naas. She did a lot of things wrong. She jumped poorly, she ran really green, and she was run down by her stablemate Baby Kate on that day. She made no mistake second time out, and didn't come off the bridle. I don't think she's a hype filly, but I think she's potentially very good, as in potentially top class, and that's not something you could say for a lot of her opposition. One note of mention for Air of Entitlement: when she won in Down Royal at Christmas, she beat Ballyboe, who I like for the Albert Bartlett. She's 12-1. So I would take on the top horse. She's too short. For me, it's Caroline Bambou and each way Air of Entitlement.
Okay, Caroline Bambou, one of the Willie Mullins runners. She's 7-1, as you saw there. Barry, we saw, and Jane mentioned about 6.5.
Yeah, so I sat on 6.5 and Gavin Cromwell's last week. First impression, she's not overly big, but when I sat on her and rode her and did a piece of work on her. She rides bigger, so she's more physically imposing when you're on top than you would think. So she's good bit of scope, good bit of strength. Has only one run over hurdles, but did jump really well. But for me, her strength is she was third, in the Irish Cesarewitch. She ran in 2 big handicaps in Newmarket. So occasionally it's going to get to her, but she has good stay in form. And that's important when you're on the new course. This mare's race is on the new course. It's a real test of stamina, hard-fought 2-mile race. I think it's going to suit her down to the ground. Jumps really well, settles, has a bit of pace. Gavin Cromwell thinks it's his best chance of the week. A lot to like about her. I'd respect what Jane says about the McManus filly, Caroline Bamboo, but I'd be really sweet on 6.5.
Okay, thank you, Barry. And Sam, just ask your thoughts here. We mentioned a couple of the Irish horses. You've got Aurora Vega, Galileo Dame, single-figure price as well. But also, as I mentioned before, Jubilee Alpha 8-1, Just a Rose 10-1, both from Paul Nicholls.
She's definitely on my shortlist. I do like her. I think she's quite a talented...
Jubilee Rose?
Sorry?
Yes. Jubilee Alpha.
Jubilee Alpha, yeah. I think she's probably one of Paul's best chances of the week. I know that's not saying a great deal at the moment, but I think, she's very progressive. She's clocked some good speed figures over here. She's probably top of the list, actually. 6.5 went the last circuit at Fairyhouse, 20 lengths quicker than any other hurdler on the card. So it was a nice performance from her first time up. The overall time was strong. Obviously 94 rated off the flat as well. So she's got plenty of experience. She's quite a hard-knocking filly with a bit of class. So I think she's the right favourite. One other line I would say is that wherever Henry de Bromhead runs in this race is worth a second look. Obviously, Tell Me Something Girl in 2021. Honeysuckle probably would have won in 2019, but didn't run. Magical Zoe second, Birdie or Bust third. So he's got 4 entries at this stage. So Air of Entitlement probably the shortest in our market here. So I would have a good look at those. Okay,
Sam, thank you very much indeed. We're going to move on to the Pertemps Final, which is on Thursday. Obviously, always another very competitive handicap, and it's 5-1 the field, and it's headed by the Wall Park at the moment, who would have top weight of 12 stone. But there is talk that he could go for the stayers as well. Geraghty de Repene 6-1, Will the Wise 6-1, Win Some Lose Some 8-1, and then it's 12-1 for D'Art, Gwenny May Boy, Feet of a Dancer, and One Big Bang 14-1 and 14 and upwards the others. AP, we'll come to you if we can here. The Wall Park, do you have any thoughts or insight in whether he's going to run here or in the stayers?
I got the impression he might run here, but who knows? I was quite impressed when he won here earlier in the year. I thought he ran okay, and the long walk didn't go fast enough for him. I'd say the handicap, he's more likely to get maybe more of a... I think the hustle and bustle of handicap might suit him better. I know Nico was really happy with Geraghty de Repene. I always thought he was a little bit soft myself. He'll probably have cheap pieces on the ground. Drying out would definitely give him a better chance. He's getting plenty of weight off the Wall Park, so... but it's a very, very tough race. The horse Thomas Cooper's Dart's Yard, he has quite a good record for the amount of runners that he's had at the Cheltenham Festival, and at 12-1 I wouldn't put anyone off him, but which one would I pick of the Wall Park and Geraghty de Repene? Probably Geraghty de Repene just.
Okay, so a narrow choice for Geraghty de Repene. Andrew, anything in the Pertemps catching your eye?
I think Gavin Cromwell's Will the Wise on the improve. I think just that, the yard's got a lot of bullets to fire this week, and I'd be agreed. Geraghty de Repene, big field, hustle and bustle. Just doesn't really tick the box for me.
Okay, and Jane, Barry, Sam, Pertemps Final, appealing?
Wouldn't look at it until I see declarations.
Okay, fair enough.
I like Feet of the Dancer, Paul Nolan's. I think it would be suited by a strongly run race. Probably sit a little bit wide, likes a little bit of room, but in Leopardstown ran a bit keen, close to the pace, got there too soon. So I think that they'll be playing their cards late, but definitely one with a squeak.
Okay, and Sam, a nod of approval from you?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that Barry said there. She travelled brilliantly at Leopardstown, just hit the front too soon, went over on the far rail and got picked off late, but I think she's got a bit of quality and she travels very well. Wall Park's trying to become the second winner this century, to be rated over 150 and win this, but he's the class act, so I can understand why.
Yeah.
But Geraghty de Repene looks the handicap block, doesn't it?
All right, okay. We'll move back on to Grade 1 action on Thursday. Then the first feature race of the day is the Ryanair, and there's the betting for you. Factor File, 5-4. LA Francais, 3-1. Banbridge in here at 4s, but the talk is that he may run in the Gold Cup with the drying ground. Gaelic Warrior wasn't left in the Champion Chase. He's in at 9-2. Spillans Tower, 5-1. Protectorat, last year's winner, 5-1. I think we can ignore Energaming because he's going to run on Wednesday, and 12-1 bar those. AP, but a pretty good record in this race, and you won it on Uxisandro in 2015 in Factor File, JP Silks as well. And do you subscribe to the theory that he doesn't stay as well as Galopin de Champs, which is why they're coming here?
He definitely doesn't stay as well as Galopin de Champs, definitely, in what you've seen so far. He probably didn't finish as well as you'd have liked in Leopardstown last time either. I actually think he'd been better ridden more forwardly, even though he looks a bit keen. I think he just looks like a good, strong, even galloper. At 5-4, look, he was good in the John Durkan when he won there. I still think he's the horse they've all got to beat. There are little question marks about him. I could see Jungle Boogie running all right at a big price, drop back in this trip, but I still think Factor File is I think he's the best horse in this race. Protectorat was good in the race last year, and he was good at Windsor last time. I don't know I know we don't know about Spillans Tower what he's doing. But I think at 5-4 Factor File, I can see why he's 5-4. You know, he's I think he just could be good enough horse to win this.
He's 5-4. Jane, we'll ask you about Spillans Tower. Can you give us any insight here?
Can't enlighten you any more than AP. We haven't been told what JP wants to do, so Mum and Dad are waiting. He's got a provisional slot booked on the ferry, but you know, maybe they want to wait for Aintree, which is quite close to Cheltenham this year. We don't know. There's whispers that I know the way you're thinking will be supplemented for the Gold Cup, which suggests Factor File will run here, and then maybe they don't want to have Spillans Tower in against Factor File. I don't know. This is all just conjecture in my head, to be honest. And people, quite understandably, maybe don't believe us when we say we don't know, but it is, at the end of the day, what the owner wants to do, and we'll wait to see. Tomorrow morning is confirmation morning for the Ryanair. So I believe if he did run here, he would run a massive race. I actually believe if he ran in the Gold Cup that he would be placed in it. Because, you know, we were disappointed with the King George run, and he still managed to finish in front of some very nice horses like Corbett's Cross. So going back to the John Durkan run, he's not far off Factor File and Galopin de Champs, is he? So, yeah, he's a good horse. Ile Francais will obviously light up this race. He's able to jump so quickly and set such fractions comfortably, but I don't think he'll relish a stiff finish. And I can't get out of my head the weakness that he has physically, and we're quick to forget that after that good Kempton run, but when he stops, he stops. So yeah, it's Factor File for me, best horse in the race. Jello is worth a mention. Henry de Bromhead will probably field 3 horses, Heartwood, Envoy Allen and Jungle Boogie. I think Heartwood is the most likely one to place, and he'd probably be a big price on the day, because I think Dara O'Keefe will ride Jungle Boogie. I think Rachel Blackmore will probably stay loyal to Envoy Allen because he's such a good record in the race, having won and finished second, but there's never been an 11-year-old win the race. So I actually think Heartwood, at a big price on the day, could run a big race.
Okay, Heartwood is about 40-1. And Andrew, I mean, Factor File is clear favourite of 5-4, but we could end up with a belting lineup here, couldn't we? Including the last 2 winners, as James said.
I think it's a deep race. You think you're going to get a clean race because you know how it's going to be run. French horse will rock and roll, go a good tempo. Obviously, the undulating track is a complete unknown to him. But Factor File, I understand why they're going this way. You look through his pedigree, it's not really a real deep staying pedigree. There's a lot of speed in there. And the fact that they went chasing straight away last year told you that his jumping was his forte. He'll be popped out, upsides, get a lead, keep it simple. And I know in the poll we've gone the other way, but I don't think he'll be beaten. I think wouldn't surprise me if Envoy Allen picked up the pieces. You know, he's a big old price. Henry's great at getting them right for these kind of races, and you see this race, the older horses have a pretty good record in it as well. So I think the French horse will blow out.
Okay.
If I was going to run the French horse and anything, I'd have loved to see him in the Champion Chase.
Just kick on.
I'd love to see him in the Champion Chase, just straight for rather than. It'll be.
It's also probably a weaker race.
Barring the one horse.
Bar John Bon, like this is a very deep Ryanair.
Yeah.
I can't see why they wouldn't.
And just
give
the
it a
way he
chance.
finishes as well, I see him as a one-man type, as in the 2 miles for me would have been for the French horse. If they changed their mind, it wouldn't still surprise me.
Yeah. Maybe they're waiting to see what your dad does in the morning, Jane, with Spillane.
They're definitely not worried about Connor anyway, don't worry.
Right, we're going to move on to the feature race on day 3 then. Now, don't forget that we do have the top price guarantee on the first and feature race every day. So, of course, on Thursday, this will be the Mayor's Novices Hurdle and, of course, the big one, which is the Stayers Hurdle. So, Tiupo's odds on to repeat that win from 12 months ago in that Stayers Hurdle at 4-5. Home by the Lee, we saw he's running in the race for the 4th time, is 6-1. Lucky Place 6-1. The Wall Park 10s, July Flower 14s, Rocky's Diamond 14s with Mystical Power. Langer Dan 16-1. The sun's come out, so I'm sure he'll be revitalised next week. 20-1 bar those. Barry, we'll start with you. You were very sweet on him 12 months ago. He's followed the same path, except he didn't win at Fairy House, but he's been kept fresh for a repeat. And, well, it doesn't look like particularly deep opposition.
No, and his performance in Fairy is second to Lossiemouth. There was no disgrace in that. He was a comfortable winner of the race last year. And to me, he's rock solid. It's very hard to make a case against him. Home by the Lee has done better at the Dublin Racing Festival this time round. But for me, there was too many horses in the picture jumping the last. Tiahupu is just a better horse than these. Lucky Place beat Gowell Road in Cheltenham on New Year's Day. He was giving him £6, but I think it needs to be better than that to trouble Tiahupu. I think he's rock solid and he's going to be very hard to beat.
And AP, earlier on in the season when William Hill spoke to you about your thoughts on the campaign, he was sort of a strong selection for you then. And when you look at Home by the Lee, who's been beaten in the race for the last 3 years as the second favourite, you must be feeling fairly happy with that choice 6 months ago?
Yeah, I think, look, it's a race that horses can come back and win quite often, and he looks like he's getting better. You know, he obviously got beaten his only run this year. He just looks a very uncomplicated type horse. He's a strong stayer. He looked like he was, from the last to the winning post last year, he was getting away. As you said, Home by the Lee's had plenty of goes. I know they've changed things and his form is definitely better, but it's just is hard to see. I think Lucky Place is the one horse that may be capable of giving him a race. I know, as Barry said, he probably has to improve on beating Gowell Road, but a bit of nicer ground and all that. And I don't know if we've seen the best of him. He ran well in the Coral Cup last year when Nicky had very few runners. I think there's still improvement to come from Lucky Place, and if you were back in one to chase Tiahupu home, he would be the one. But yeah, I think Tiahupu is very strong.
It's 6-1 Lucky Place and 6-1 bar Tiahupu. Sam, is there anything else at each way odds that appeals to you?
I thought Montmoral might run okay. I think he comes here instead of the Pertemps. He might run into a place. I think Gowell Road holds the key to this race in some respects, because quite often in this race in recent times we haven't seen a true gallop, and he's one that could provide it in this race. And like last year's finishing percentage, I think the winner was 108%, so they dawdled and quickened, and that's when he's at his best for me. That 2.5 latent speed that he's got, he can employ that and quicken away from slow boats. I back Home by the Lee in this race for about the last 7 years. He'll probably win this year because I won't play him, but I'm with AP. I think Lucky Place could be the one. We don't quite know how good he could be over 3 miles in a championship race. He's got good form around Cheltenham. I thought he was the each-way play, really. I think he can still improve a bit.
Jane?
Yeah, quite simply, Chupo's the next horse with that accumulator that I'm thinking about. He's done nothing to dispel the belief that he's the best stayer around, probably because he hasn't ran. We haven't heard anything negative coming from Gordon Elliott's camp. The run, you know, if we're thinking Lossiemouth's a banker and the Mares, sure, Jesus, look at that Hatton's Grace form. It wasn't run to suit for him. And the opposition, when you're talking about Home by the Lee, looking exciting at the age of 10, coming here with the 4th attempt, you know, it just tells you this isn't, there might be a lot of runners, but it's not a good race.
not a good race.
What I want to ask AP, you came back from injury in 2008. How hard is it for Jack Kennedy? You know, the amount of time he's had off, coming back, fit and firing, been sharp. You know, how hard was it for you, and how hard did you find it?
I think Jack Kennedy's better at it than any of us because it's the sixth time he'll have broke his leg and he's 25. So I actually be more of the belief that I think you get used to it. And I think that, he's had, that's his sixth broken leg. He's broke his arm 4 or 5 times as well, has he, Burr? He's broke his arm a few times, I think, but I'd say he's getting used to it. It will be hard. He's 25, but he's a class jockey. And I wouldn't worry about it.
So that's the Stayers Hurdle, that's the feature race on Thursday. Best of the rest on this day is the Jack Richards Novices Limited Handicap Chase, which is now a Novices Limited Handicap Chase, a Grade 2. Quite a big field. We're going to line up for that. You've got also the Plate, which Ginny's Destiny was mentioned as being well backed in earlier on, and also the Kim Muir, which is also sometimes fairly open, or like last year, sometimes quite simple. Any of those 3 races jumping out for anyone, Sam?
Just a line on the Plate. The last 6 winners have either led or been prominent. So a couple of front runners that leapt off the page really for me were Grandeur Dam and Gemarand. I thought those 2 could be of some interest. I think they're 20s and 16s, something like that. And I like Midnight Alfred in the Kim Muir.
Okay, Sam, thank you.
The intermediate distance handicap chase, what's it called now? The Jack Richards.
Was the Turners.
Golden Miller, we'll call it. We'll stick to tradition. I like Answer to KF each way. I think he'll be a bigger price on the day because he's trained by a guy called Terence O'Brien, who's a handful of horses in Cork. He's ridden by a guy called John Shinnick, who many people in the UK won't know, but he'll claim 3 in it. And he rode the horse when he finished 4th in the Martin Pipe last year. He's getting a rating of 145, which is £12 higher than when he won on the bridle at Naas. He's actually 9-year-old, so he's not that young, but he is, I just think he'll be not a fancy, shiny number from a big yard, but he'll run well.
Okay, and Barry, you went to speak before Jane cut you off there?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm used to that. There was the same in the car on the way here.
Watch RTE.
A horse in the Plate at a fancy price, Personal Ambition. I mentioned him earlier. He beat Django Bay and Kelso last season. He was going to win a Grade 2 Novice Chase in Ascot before Christmas, only for a mistake at the last. He was well beaten in 3rd behind Gidley Park over 2 mile, which qualified him for a handicap. I think he could be horse who could run well at a fancy price.
And the Yard have had a good season, haven't they, as well. Just a reminder that we have got the free bet for you on the opening day of the Cheltenham Festival. That's available from Sunday. You can opt in online, or it's available via your Plus card in the William Hill betting shop as well. And, of course, as always, full terms and conditions apply. So we move on to day number 4. And this is the big day, Cheltenham Gold Cup Day as well. As I mentioned earlier on, and when we introduced our panel, we've got 3 Gold Cup winning jockeys alongside us as well. And a big day for William Hill because we're back sponsoring the Cheltenham Festival courtesy of the County Hurdle. So everyone's very much looking forward to that. And to celebrate, as you've seen in your programmes, which were left on your seats before, we'll have 3 top price guarantees on the Friday. The first and feature, as is the case throughout the week, which will be the Triumph and the Gold Cup. And we're throwing in the William Hill County Hurdle for good measure as well. So Triumph Hurdle. Let's have a look at the betting, how it shapes up at the moment. East India Dock is 7-4. With Lulamba 9-4, Hello Neighbour, who we've also heard a lot about, 5-1, and 14-1 bar the 3, bringing in Galileo Dame, who's obviously also possibly going to run in the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. And Palladium, the German Derby winner from a couple of years ago, has had 1 run for Nicky Henderson, 14-1 as well. Barry, we'll start with you as the standout member for Lulamba, who's the 9-4 second favourite.
Yeah, I suppose I started off, I really was drawn to East India Dock after his win here, and then was drawn to Hello Neighbour in Leopardstown and sat on Hello Neighbour. The positive I would take for Hello Neighbour is he's a very good moving horse, and I think he's going to be better for better ground, albeit he has good form on soft ground. But so that's my second U-turn. Now I'm gone Lulamba. The confidence behind Lulamba. I've ridden 4 Triumph winners for Nicky. I know the type of horse he has, and when you get that vibe in the yard, he has good form, he has limited experience, but no one will school a horse better over a hurdle than they will at Seven Barrows. So I think his prep will be good. And just he has the class. He could be, for me, a Peace & Co. type triumph hurdle horse, and that would be the class to win this race. So I've come back around to Lulamba, having fancied both of the other two. Maybe I'm way off the mark, but I think it's between the three of them.
What do you think you'll fancy by Friday?
I think. What day is today?
Still early, isn't it?
No, I do. I've come round to Lulamba. I'm getting the right vibe from the camp.
Okay, Lou Lamba, who has got a very, very different profile to East India Doc, who's had 10 runs on the flat and 3 over hurdles.
Yeah, and he's also a 90 rated flat horse, with some latent speed, some quality. What I love about him is his jumping. I mean, doing that using the race IQ data, the jump index he clocked first time was astonishing, really, for a juvenile hurdler. Really does set about his hurdles, doesn't he? On the speed figures that we keep, me and a couple of colleagues, he's already done a quick enough time or a quick enough figure to win any of the last 20 Triumph hurdles. So the fact that he's done it here as well, we're very enthusiastic about his chance. So yeah, he'd definitely get the nod for me.
Barry sort of just had a little nod then. I don't know if he was...
Barry's figures...
I'm just acknowledging Sam's details. No, I'm still with Lulamba.
Okay, not swayed. Can Jane...
Barry's figures might be better than mine.
There might be.
Every chance.
Subject to opinion, isn't it? Yeah. Jane?
Before I make my case for East India Doc, I kind of... when you can't put into words a feeling, I feel like you have that feeling with Lulamba. And sometimes I have that with a horse and I can't communicate it to somebody, but you have that kind of, this could be a wow.
Jane is giving me a kick up the arse to explain myself a bit better. So Lulamba,
well,
to
like
me,
a vibe from a camp. You're very close to Nicky Henderson. Obviously, he's sweet as a nut. Is that what you're saying?
Do you know, yeah, it's not what he is saying, it's what he isn't saying. So
again, he's not communicating great either.
So this is, we need
a lot of guesswork here,
have we got any shrink or anything like that in the place? No, but this horse has got size, presence, scope. People have spoke about him being the horse with potential, which I think he is. If he was in someone else's hands, I would say he possibly is too raw. But we spoke about Nicky Henderson and what he does with 2-milers. This, to me, could be a great example of what he does with a 2-miler with limited experience and over an obstacle as well. So, no, you aren't cornering me. I'm still for Lulamba.
I'm not trying to change your mind, but my question kind of is Lulamba good enough right now on his third run over hurdles to beat what could be a prime East India Doc? I'm not saying East India Doc is going to improve an ounce from his 4-year-old year. Yeah,
I suppose that's what I was taking with Sam was so strong on the figure, saying he'd won the last 20 runnings of this race. So I'm kind of thinking, right, well then maybe Lulamba's more in his place than I thought. And maybe he has, but as I say, I recognise the buzz on this horse. And I see him, his size, his scope, his quality. I think East India Doc will need to be as good as Sam says he is to beat him.
Okay. Just anything to add on East India Doc or Lulamba, boys?
I just think he's a real strong stayer, a hell of a traveller. He lays down to gallop. He lays down when he goes down the hill. Just one sitting. He's trained by he's just a brilliant trainer, James Owen. Mm-hmm. One each way, Gibbs Island. Tom Lacey's. I was at that place called Sedgefield, which is a great place for an undulating track. And if you can handle Sedgefield, you'll definitely handle Cheltenham. So Gibbs Island each way. If you can get 20-1 about him each way, I think he could nick a place.
I was like Barry. Been in Nicky Henderson's quite a lot. See him in the mornings. They were really, really strong on the Lamba for the last 3 or 4 months. But I was absolutely blown away by East India Doc here the last day. Thought his jumping was class, tough as nails. Reminded me of a better version of Catchit, who went on to win a champion hurdle. I'd say I was convinced about the Lamba, but until I saw him the last day, and I just thought he's hard as nails, him.
Okay.
So I just like a horse that has done that, been here, done that. He'll take some getting past.
We'll move on to the William Hill County Hurdle. Of course, AP knows plenty about winning this with blowing wind. Kopek Demi, 5-1. Lark in the morning, 8-1. McClory, 8-1 with Absurd. Cargasi, Val Grand, 8-1. Ethical Diamond, 10s. 12 Burdett Road. And Carnaca and 14s Bar. Burdett Road looks as though they're going to go for the champion hurdle with that. Cargasi now hopefully will run here for one or two of the other members of the panel. Kopek Demi, will he go here? Will he go Martin Pipe? So plenty up in the air, AP, but anything in there that you want to give a mention to?
I think the only one that knows about Kopek to me is not the owner, it's just the trainer. The only thing I would say, looking at the trainer here, he's very, very strongly represented with Absurd, Cargis, Ethical Diamond, Bunting. Absurd ran the Melbourne Cup, was an unbelievably impressive winner this race last year. You'd think if he was in a lot of yards, he could be in a champion hurdle. Ethical Diamond obviously won a maiden hurdle last time and got a high enough rating for it. It's probably not as good a flat horse. Well, he's not as good a flat horse as Absurd. They're owned by the same people. But I do think there's a lot more to come from Ethical Diamond. I think Kopek to me could run in the other race. I think he could run. I think those two horses, JP's, Kopek to me and McLary, I do think both of them, well, don't know about Kopek to me because we're only going what people in Willie Mullins think, but I think McLary is a horse that could definitely have a bit left. But one of those horses, whatever Paul Townend rides, where it's Absurd, Ethical Diamond, or I'd be inclined to just take a chance on Paul Townend.
Would McClory definitely come here and not the Martin Pipe?
I'm not sure. No, I'd love to be able to tell you, Sam, but I don't know. But I do think you'd imagine they'd go separate ways, hopefully, And I do think McLary's definitely a horse that could be still improving and still unexposed. But with the strong hand that Willie has there, and Paul Townend has a very good record in the race, you'd be inclined to go with him.
And an interesting point AP made there, James, was if Absurd was probably trained somewhere else, he'd probably be running in the champion hurdle, wouldn't he?
Yeah, you would, yeah. I was just on a panel with David Casey the other day. He kind of said that they're looking at international flat races for Absurd. So I don't know if he's not going to turn up here, but it's definitely the class angle they're looking at for him. Ethical Diamond is probably more likely to run here. He suggested Cargasi might come here because the owner has Gala Marceau and Jade de Grugy in the mares over 2.5, and 2 miles is her trip because she's so aggressive in her run style. And if you go back to her form in the Triumph last year behind Mageborough, if you look at how keen she was with Paul at Aintree to still lead Sergino down to the last hurdle in that Grade 1 at Aintree and come back then and win at Punchestown. I just like the mare. If she gives herself a chance, she's got immense talent. Kopek Demi, obviously he's the talking horse, but we've been here before. Sam Majest was a talking horse last year. Milantino was a talking horse. So I get it. I don't think a horse should be allowed to run off an Irish or UK mark without having run in either the UK or Ireland. Coming from France makes the handicapper's job very difficult.
The thing is, Jen, we'll keep moving the goalposts for Willie Mullins, but he'll keep working it out. You will end up having it. You'll change the goalposts and say, yep, they have to have a run. Well, next year there'll be something that does have a run. And, how many times do you keep changing the rules to try and beat a trainer?
Yeah, no, it's not even, I get it to try and beat the trainer, but even for the people here, how can you be interested in Kopek Demi when you cannot quantify the form?
What happens then to French horses that come from France and want to run the race? It hasn't happened yet, but if the French want to do it...
If they want to qualify for a handicap at Cheltenham, run at the November meeting, run any meeting in the UK or Ireland before then. It's simple.
Fair enough.
Don't
argue. I'm not going to take her on. You got beaten, I've got beat.
Didn't I read a stat somewhere that French horses at about 10% strike rate when they come over? Obviously, those aren't all trained by Willie Mullins.
Yeah. Well,
but that's their first run.
Yeah, Gelly Warrior was the same, wasn't he? Yeah. He came over with his French form.
Got beat at 13-8.
Yeah, got beat. Yeah.
This might be 8-13, the way they're talking.
You like Cargasi as well here, Sam, didn't you?
Yeah, and Val Grand, who's had the proper skeleton treatment this year. Doesn't develop into a Grade 1 horse, then 3 runs around the back on soft ground, 140 to 134, and been found in the market. So those would be my two. And Jimmy Desoy, if he shipped up here as well, he's one obviously that's on the short list. Yeah,
and obviously drying ground for Val Grand will help as well. Moving on to the Albert Bartlett then, which is going to be the obviously 3 mile novices hurdle. I'll have a look at the betting rather than a close-up of my face.
A lovely, lovely face, though, isn't it?
Thank you,
Great
Jane.
hair.
A face a mother could love.
Here's something more interesting. Final Demand, 11-8. The Yellow Clay, 3-1. The Big Westerner 4s. Wingman, 8s with Jasmine Deveau. JetBlue, 10-1. Wendigo, 12s with Ballybow. 14s Intense Approach. And also Argento Boys, 16-1 bar. Now, this obviously is very much dependent on Final Demand and the Yellow Clay, who are and have been left in the turners on Wednesday, purely because I think, James, you said that afterwards Willie said this horse is not slow after he won at Leopardstown, but then it was floated, the drying ground might persuade them to change.
I think it was Brian Drew floated it, was it
Yeah.
his owner? And look, they may well think about it, and I think Camp, the Yellow Clay, have a wingman in there who is 8-1. He has a great chance as well. No, it's a difficult race. Favourites have a poor record in it. I'd always look for a bit of value in here, and I'd always look for experience and guts and toughness. I think the Big Westerner is a good mare, but I like Ballybow. I was in Clonmel the last day. Ground was horrendous. It's that race that Alaho and Minilla Indo went to war with one year, and they came out and obviously were very good after. I think just Ballybow finds a way to win, and I think he's got guts. When the tough get going, he'll get going.
Okay, thank you, Jane. AP, you're the leading rider in the history of the Albert Bartlett with 3 wins.
Yeah, they were 3 certainties, actually. They were Blackjack, Catch'em, and I know favourites don't have a good record in those races. I think the 3 of those are favourites, Blackjack, Catch'em, at Fisher's Cross and Wachita Lyman, because I think if one of the 2 horses, Final Demand or the Yellow Clay, ran, I think either one of them would win. But I'm with Gian. I like Ballybow. I thought when he won the last day, he looked a bit leery. He was only just doing enough. Real tough horse. And I actually thought quite like Gordon's other horse that won in Nace one day, Jacob's Ladder. I thought he might be better going a bit further and at a price. Gordon's a good record in the race. But I do like look, the Yellow Clay is probably like to go to the race because of Wingman. So, but maybe Ballybow or Jacob's Ladder at a big price each way.
Jacob's Ladder 25-1 at the moment, incidentally. AT, anything to throw in?
I'll throw in the French horse, JetBlue. A whiz round here. You can only go and do that, but he proved he handles the track. The fact that he's trained where he is the price, because he's double figures. You know, he stayed up that hill exceptionally well. And you mentioned the fact that AP's not riding in the race is the reason there hasn't been any, favourites winning the race. So,
Could be the one to go with, JetBlue, who has definitely run and won at Cheltenham. So under Jane's rules, he's definitely allowed to run
Didn't
as
just
well.
won by 10.
Yeah,
That was his debut for David Cotan as well, wasn't it? He didn't jump great, but you'd imagine with a bit more time, he could certainly get brushed up on that.
And obviously David's had winners at Cheltenham, hasn't he? Did he train at Easysland? Yeah, when he won the cross country. We'll move on to the big race of the week. I mean, I think, obviously, as we heard from the trading room earlier on, 2-5 is about the price for Galopin Des Champs, as he bids to emulate some very, very, very good horses, legendary horses, and win a 3rd Gold Cup. The 2-5 favourite for the Gold Cup, Banbridge 4-1, Factor File, who we think might be running in the Ryanair 5-1. I know the way you're thinking. It was inferred earlier today that he might be supplemented for the Gold Cup. He's 8-1, Monty Star 12s, Corbett's Cross 14s, L'Empresse 20s, Hewick, who will love the drying ground, 33-1, 40-1 bar. Andrew, obviously your biggest day in the saddle came when winning the Gold Cup on Cool Dawn, and you were 25-1 that day. Is there anything at those juicy odds that can upset the favourite?
That was on rattling ground as well. It went round in 6:30. Galopin Des Champs went round in 6:44 last year. I think the ground is going to be could be his undoing. No rain around. AP's looking at me like I've got 2 heads. I know there's only one. I just look at his action. He's got a very round action. And he's had his ideal conditions the last 3 years.
William Hill won't be giving you a job in it, I can tell you that.
Why is that? You think he's an absolute? I think the ground could get him beat. Because come Friday, the inside track's the driest track.
This is coming from look at his socks. Just like, who thought this morning that
Andrew,
I will do that?
Lift your legs up, Andrew, just so...
But show them to the
Jesus
people.
red.
Show
He's
them
called
to the
Lenzio
people.
for a reason. He can't see them. They have to be bright, Jen.
Look, Jane, I put my black socks on this morning. What's wrong with them? But Banbridge will love the conditions. He will absolutely love the conditions.
He won't stay, will he?
On the ground, he'll stay. I just think it'll be a war of attrition. Cool Dawn was Cool Dawn the best horse in the race. He was on the day because the ground was quick. By the time this race comes, 4 o'clock on the last day on the inside, the water on the Thursday. They won't put any on Thursday night. It'll dry out. I think that Galopin Des Champs can get beat on the ground because just with his action, very round. You might say Leopardstown suits him, but you got to come down that hill a couple of times and it's drying out a bit. I'll have my question marks. I think Banbridge could do him for a turn of foot, and it won't be so much of a stamina test because it is such a dry week that it's there's nothing.
Storm Henry
around.
Thursday night. Have we not heard that? Storm Henry Thursday
Storm in a
night.
teacup. Might be a storm in a teacup.
I mean, I suppose that Sam, most people think he's going to win. He's going to be very hard to beat. Only one horse in the best part of 60 years has won 3 Gold Cups. So it is a difficult thing to do, but the way the race does seem to have fallen apart over the last 3 months has laid it open for a perfect opportunity for him.
It sort of reminds those of us of a certain vintage of Best Mate's third Gold Cup, really, that there wasn't a lot of...
Geez, I nearly beat him on a flipping slow old boat.
Sir Rembrandt.
Nearly.
Yeah, nearly.
And it has fallen apart a little bit, which is a shame, but the thing with this horse, he's just bomb-proof, really, isn't he? He's got perfect speed, balance, staying ability, the way he jumps, can control a race. He can even overcome adversity and come from behind in a race. He's just got everything you want in a 3-mile chaser or 3.25-mile chaser. So he's a very difficult horse to oppose, I think. I think if I was going to pump one at a massive price and perhaps without the favourite, I'd have a look at something like the Real Whacker, who ran creditably, I thought, in the King George, finished 4th. He might just finish 2nd at a big price. I mean, this race is littered with horses that managed to run personal bests or run incredible races at huge prices. So I'd probably just take a bit of a chance with him. He looked like he was coming back a little bit at Kempton last time. He's got good form around here, so 40-1 for him.
Yeah, fair enough. Barry?
Yeah, it's fairly impossible to oppose Galopin Des Champs, and as Sam says, he can control the pace. He can, it's Banbridge is a classy horse. We love the good ground if it's good ground. He's the only horse for me with the class to trouble Galopin Des Champs. But no, I think it's hard to see him beaten. Sorry, Lenzio.
Jane?
We'll just put a few ratings on it. So Galopin Des Champs is the best horse in training. He's rated 180. Banbridge is rated 168. That's the peak of his powers at the moment. Monty Stars rated 153. Corbett's Cross 161. L'Empresse 163. I know the way you're thinking 160. The Real Whacker 159. A Hoyson, you're 165. I don't know how he still has that rating. But we're talking about most horses needing to find at least 10 pounds. This is his prime. And he is versatile and flawless in every sense. If you want to try and pick a hole in a horse, you'll usually attack their tactics, their mind, their ground, their distance, their jumping. He doesn't have a chink in his armour. He's the best around. I would just enjoy him.
I mean, he would actually be going AP for his 5th consecutive win at the festival, wouldn't he? Apart from that small upset when he stumbled in the turners. But you couldn't hide your disdain for Andrews.
Look, he's the ultimate staying chaser, so he is. He is and Best Mate won 3 Gold Cups. You look at him and you think, is he better than Best Mate? He's very similar to him in terms of how he races. Like, you look at horses like Cotto Star, Desert Orchid even back when he was able to win, able to win Tingle Creeks over 2 mile and Irish Grand Nationals and Whitbreads and 4 King Georges and managed to win a Gold Cup even though he didn't like it around here. Cotto Star was probably the best horse that I raced against or seen because he done the same. He won Tingle Creeks over 2 mile and 5 King Georges and 2 Gold Cups. I think this horse is actually like Best Mate, that this Gold Cup is the greatest test of stamina because it's often run, it's the ultimate stayer wins it, and he is the ultimate stayer. I think if the Gold Cup was run over 4 mile too, he'd win it even easier. You know what I mean? I think that's what he is. He's an unbelievably good stayer. Don't think there's any flaws in him. I think this year's race looks worse than probably even definitely last year's, I think, and the year before. And the reason why it is because he's beaten most of them. He's given them all the hoosh, and that was it. The end of it, he got beat obviously in the John Durgan at the beginning of the year.
I think soft ground. You think he's as good on good ground? What happens when he goes to Punchestown and it dries up a bit?
I think Andrew, they'll do well to get anywhere near him, to be honest. It won't matter what the ground is like. They need to be worried about the coming back, not the ground, the going, so they do. No, I just think he's the ultimate there. I don't think there's any flaws. He's won in Leopardstown. Leopardstown can dry up often. The ground Cheltenham will not be any worse than good to soft, so it won't dry up that much. He'll win. I think Banbridge will stay. He'll stay better than all the rest of them. Just not better than Gallop and Deschamps. And I actually think even though he got beat last time, well beaten, Ascot Corbett's Cross could be third because he won the National Hunt Chase last year, 3 mile 6, beat, and Mr. Vanga was third. Embassy Gardens was second, who's not a bad horse, won in Tremor on New Year's Day. Not a bad horse. I think he could be third because I think he'll stay better than some of the rest of them. And that's what I go 1, 2, 3 in the Gold Cup.
There you go. 1, 2, 3 from AP in the Gold Cup. Keep it simple. Just follow him in. 14-1 Corbett's Cross, incidentally, at the moment. Best of the rest for Friday. We got the Mayor's Chase, the Hunter's Chase, and the Martin Pipe. So those 3 races to round up, the week. Jane?
I'd like to ask AP, who would ride Kopek to me if he ran in the Martin Pipe?
Oh, I wouldn't have a clue, Jenna. No. The only reason why I thought that he might go here is because Willie has such a strong hand in the, in the county hurdle, and we are going, and a lot of those good things get beat. But you wonder why Willie. This was where he was he must be showing something good. You think we may as well try and win a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. I know it doesn't always work like that, but.
Well, Gallop and Deschamps won this, and then he won a Grade 1 at Punchestown.
Yeah, so.
It's just the jockey is so important in the Martin Pipe. Danny Gilligan's likely to ride.
It is so important. I do think that it's not easy to ride winners at Cheltenham, but I think this track, a hurdle track, is probably, Barry will tell you, it's easier on the new course with the 2 hurdles, isn't it? For the last half mile. It is,
but you need a lot of patience too.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about younger and experienced riders, they tend to go really hard in this race early on. So emphasis then are extra on patience. And it's just to have a cool head. So I'm not sure. I guessed when Miss Jane spoke about it briefly, Aidan Kelly maybe would ride a good few for JP. He would be an option. But I don't think Willie has a condition in the yard as such.
Yeah, so who knows? But he is an interesting horse, that's for sure. And I'm sure he's been well talked about anyway. So. And look, it's because he's trained by Willie Mullins, and who would, why not?
Yeah. Anything else? Mayor's Chase, Hunter Chase?
Dino Blue, hard to get away from her again. She was probably unlucky last year when the ground went as soft as it did. Maybe they overdid the waiting tactics. But she's a very good mare. She beat Allegoria de Vassi the last time. Allegoria de Vassi doesn't turn up every day. I'd have me 5 on Dino Blue before I'd have it on Allegoria de Vassi. So I'd like her.
Okay, perfect. Don't forget that we have got a completely free bet for the opening day. That is available from Sunday as well, and that is available online in shop, and it's via Plus Card in the shop, I should mention as well. And of course, the full terms and conditions are available. One final question to the panel for the week before we end, and we'll go back the other way. Sam, we'll start with you. 4 days, nap of the week.
East India Dock.
Barry?
Actually, it was a horse earlier on who you passed me by, and I didn't want to pull you on it. But going back to the Turners, and everyone was talking about the Skeleton horse. But I'm actually a big fan of Final Demand. I thought he was a brilliant winner in Leopardstown Shuttle, or in Limerick, showing lots of class. But then how he won in Leopardstown, Paul Townend gave him a squeeze before the turn in, and the penny was only dropping. I think this horse has a massive amount of improvement to come in him. I agree that he's a horse for the future, but I think he could be very, very good. They had there's a lot of belief in him having a lot of pace. Danny Mullins thought he would go for a bumper at Christmas, not for a maiden hurdle with the way he works. So I'm very sweet and final demand.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Jane?
Best horse in training, best race of the year. It's all National Hunt racing is about. It's the Gold Cup, and Gallopin des Champs is the best we've seen for a very long time. Take him on at your peril.
Jane, thank you. AP?
Dino Blue in the Mayor's Chase.
Dino Blue. So both Jane and AP twisting the knife. Andrew, into yours.
Well, I said to you, I like Ballyburn, but I'm sticking with telepathy. Simple, yeah. Well, at least I'm going for, there's a bit of value in it, and he'll be telling me value wins nothing. I can see already. He doesn't need to tell me anything, but I think Tom Cannon will get loose on the front end.
Go off to the betting office here, William Hale. There's a bit of value. Can I have money for that? Finished fourth.
So, right, thank you very much indeed, Andrew. And everyone, that is bringing to a close the official Cheltenham Press Review, Cheltenham Festival preview, I should say, for 2025. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you to our panel. If you'd please show your appreciation for Sam Turner, Barry Geraghty, Jane Mangan,
Thanks, everyone.
AP McCoy and Andrew Thornton. And best of luck next week. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy it.
William Hill give you a top price guarantee on the first and feature race every day at Cheltenham.